Okay, I said I wasn't going to film another episode or anything until I had the first one out and the name was found and all of that, but this is something that I've wanted to talk about for a while, and that is to stop glorifying situationships and start glorifying God. Walk with me on this one. I see so much on social media and so many people talking about, oh, your friend that's in a situationship while it's constantly derailing their life, or are you in that situationship that are just whatever. What about that fulfills you? Because I don't think any situationship is fulfilling. As someone who has been in them, it's so unfulfilling. There is nothing about a situationship that makes me look back upon them and go, dang, I really want to be in another situationship. I remember too, whenever Rob Roush, however you say his last name, from Love Island, was like heavily popping off. I remember seeing a post saying a situationship with him would heal me. So you mean to tell me that you want to be in a non-exclusive, possibly exclusive, something that you can't even really consider a relationship with somebody that is not really planning to go anywhere? That's going to heal you? Find your worth and know your worth. And if you don't know your worth, you need to look for it, because I promise you're worth way more than somebody who can't decide if they want to be in a relationship. And not only that, you are worth way more than a situationship that isn't consistent or that has no plan of going further than that. Because like I said previously, is it ever that casual? No, it's not. And look, if you are not a believer, if you're on your own path of your own religion, that's your business. And if you're gonna not glorify God instead, at least start finding yourself and respecting yourself, because I don't think any situationship holds a ounce of self-respect for yourself, because you're constantly allowing yourself to be in this situationship that is giving girlfriend duties and girlfriend things without the girlfriend label, and it's always toxic. Somebody always ends up hurt. It's never good. That's why there's so many situationships who go no contact. So why would you allow yourself to continue to be in that situation? Like I also said in my previous podcast, we got to be selfish sometimes. We have to start being selfish sometimes. And I only mean that in reference to when it comes to our emotions and our mental health, because there is so much that is just unfulfilling, and it harms us way more than we think it's ever going to. And I have also been the person saying, well, I can cut my emotions off, I can allow myself not to get emotionally invested. While that can be true, it's also not. But what's the point of not allowing yourself to be emotionally invested? That's what makes us human, is that we consistently stay emotionally invested in relationships with other people, whether it's romantic or not. And I think that there is a very small amount of situationships out there that are acceptable. Whether it's, hey, well, we're going to keep in contact. Things aren't where they need to be for us to be together, but like, we're going to just go down this road until they are. Okay, that's one thing. But then at that point, like, why not just be long distance or exclusive? And just wait for the time to be right to when you could have the full experience of a relationship. What's so hard about committing to one person? I don't understand. As someone who has always been committed to the person that I'm with, I will never understand people who cannot commit to one singular person. I don't think my brain is wired that way. And I don't understand anyone's brain being wired any other way. I mean, whether you believe in God or not, I believe that God has somebody for everyone, because he says, go be fruitful and multiply. That's in the Bible. But if you also take all the talk in society and in the world about relationships that are soulmates and the invisible string theory and all of that, what would make somebody think that they can't commit to one person? What would wire somebody's brain in a way that is not committing to one person? I've never been able to understand that, and I wanted to get that off my chest because I felt like that was something that needed to be discussed. I am actually trying to call you out. If you're seeing this, sorry. But it's not, I don't think it's okay. I don't. Because why would you put your time and energy into someone that isn't doing the same for you? Why would you put your time and energy into someone who is making it very clear that they don't want to put their time and energy into you? It doesn't make sense to me. And I don't know if that's just because I'm wired that way or what. But like I said, in the situationships that I've been in, that clearly did not work out. because I am a single lady. I got to the end of it wondering why I was involved in that for as long as I was, and wondering why I allowed myself to think any of that for a second was okay. And you don't know until you know, and you don't leave until you're ready, and all of those things, yes. But at what point are we going to start standing up for ourselves? At what point are we going to look at the situation that we're in the relationship that we're in the friendship that we're in, and say, this is not right? If I saw my best friend in this relationship knowing all these details, would I support it? If my life was an active TV show, is the audience screaming at me, telling me to get out, to leave, to stop being with that person? Because if you can't sit here and say, yeah, no, I fully support that. I would fully support that if that was my best friend, or if that was my mom, or if that was my sister, or my cousin, or whatever. If you can't sit there and make that decision confidently, why are you allowing yourself to be put through that? Because I know relationships and friendships that I've had, if one of my best friends was in that situation, I wouldn't support it. I wouldn't. And sometimes you don't get the full honest truth until afterwards, but also, friends, we got to start being truthful and honest. And if that puts a damper on the relationship, if that ends the friendship or whatever it is, there's only so much you can do. At some point, you've got to let people make their own decisions. You know, I had a friend who got with and started dating an ex-boyfriend of mine that was something that consisted of off and on for like 6 years, and it was the person that I was in love with, and I thought I was going to marry one day, and we kept coming back to each other years and years and years. And I mean, even recently too, like, that was my person, and she was my best friend. We went to high school together, and our friendship in high school was not strong, but it got stronger after high school. It got stronger through college, and it got really strong after college. And she was going out with this guy and being intimate with this guy and all of that, and didn't tell me for a month. Lied to my face, because there were times when I was like, well, are you like seeing anybody? Are you talking to anybody? No, I'm not. And the whole time she was talking to this ex-boyfriend of mine that I genuinely believed was going to be the person I was going to marry and spend the rest of my life with and have kids with and all of that. Now, she didn't know super details, but she knew enough. She knew enough. And that hurt. But now I will say at first, she told me in a really horrible way. She had come to visit me. And I had already seen her around Christmas time to exchange presents and all that. And she didn't tell me that time. And at the time that I saw her around Christmas, it had been a week since things had happened between her and him. And she didn't tell me then. And then she comes to visit me, and she doesn't tell me until she is sitting on the plane about to take off to go back home. And she sends me a text, and it's a very long text, and the text starts off about her, how much she loves me and how grateful she is to be my friend, and thanking me for everything. And so I'm thinking, like, this is just a very grateful text. This is a text that, like, I would send to somebody, and not only that I would kill for somebody to send to me. And halfway through the text, she drops that she's been talking to him, that she's been going out with him for about a month. I mean, she doesn't tell me at the time, but we end up talking about it on the phone. And my first thought when I saw that text was, I don't care, I can't lose her. That was my very first thought, because that's how important she was to me. And we ended up talking on the phone and having a conversation where I asked her detailed questions and how long it had been going on and everything. And it didn't clock to me at first how long it had been going on and how long she had been lying to me. But I'm really trying not to cry while talking about this. I ended up telling her everything in detail. And I told her how he was probably going to treat her, how he was probably going to go back to his most recent act, and how, I told her, I don't know how I'm going to feel if one day you call me and tell me that you got engaged to him, and I have to sit across a dinner table on a double date with you maybe, and look at the ring on your finger that I desperately longed for years. I don't know that I could stand with you at the altar while you say I do to somebody who I would have done anything to be in that position. And I don't know what I'm going to do if I'm going to see y'all's kids together, because that was my person. And to this day, it's really hard for me to deny that claim. I've never loved anyone that desperately. I've never loved anyone like that. And I tell her all of this, and we had this whole conversation, and I tell her I'm not in the business of not letting my friends be happy. That's extremely important to me. And I don't want to lose this friendship. But I had told her all of that. And, I talked to other people that were close to me in my life, and we had all these conversations. And the next day I ended up talking to my aunt, and I tell her everything. And she said, Riley, do you realize it's been a month? And I had already, all that night and the next morning been thinking about, okay, wait, hold on. This didn't just happen. She didn't tell me, oh, this happened this past weekend. She said it had been going on for a month. And my aunt is like, my best friend did that to me twice, but not to that extent. She called me the next day, and she told me immediately. And so we had a very long conversation. It lit a fire under me whenever it confirmed that my feelings about how it had been a month were feelings that were valid. And so I ended up telling her I need to get off the phone and I need to call her, the friend at the time. And I hung up the phone and I called this friend and I said, hey, look, I know what I said last night. And I did mean what I said last night, but all night I thought about how long this has been going on and how you were able to do that to me. I said, if I would have done that with your ex, and I brought up the ex that is in very similar level with mine in this relationship that I have with this guy, I said, if anything would have happened, I would have called you the very next day. And I said, and I would have told you through broken words and sobs, but I would have told you. And I also proceeded to tell her that when this guy tried to get with one of my other best friends, he didn't try really anything other than trying to add her on Snapchat and talk to her. This other friend, before she even knew, they had exchanged some conversational text, but he was trying to add her on Snapchat. By the time he added her on Snapchat, she knew everything. She sent me a screenshot the second she saw it and said, dude, what do? I don't want this. She was like, I'm gonna block him, but I wanted you to know this happened. And I told her that. I said, and I would have called you and told you. And she tried to weaponize religion and say that it might have been a God badge. And I was like, girl, it's not. I'm sorry, but that's not how you're gonna meet your husband in the situation that she met him in. And it's also probably not gonna lead to you lying to your so-called best friend for a month, if it's a God match. But I digress. God works in mysterious ways sometimes. And I tell her, look, I don't want to make you do this. I really don't. And if it was anyone else, I promise you we would not be having this conversation, but it's him. And I said, I need you to choose, because it can't be both. I can't be okay with this, actually. And honestly, at that point, the friendship was already damaged because she had been lying to me. And so, but I was still willing to repair it. That's how much she mattered to me. And so I tell her all this. I went on for about 5 minutes and I said, you don't have to say anything, but I'm going to need you to make a decision. She ended up hanging up the phone, and she texted me back that night telling me that she wasn't choosing, or she wasn't going to have an ultimatum based on a life decision. I don't know how it was a life decision when you have known this guy for a month. I mean, she knew of him, but for this relationship to be going on for about a month, and it wasn't a relationship, it was a situationship. She ended up telling me basically that she was gonna take time and pray and all this stuff, and that she was choosing herself, which basically meant she just wasn't gonna make a decision. And I couldn't even respond to her that day. I had to wait to respond to her the next day, and I just was like, I have to take a step back. And I don't think people talk about how hard it is grieving somebody who's still alive. I don't think that's discussed enough, because it's really strange. And this is really morbid to say, but I honestly think it would have made it a lot easier if she wasn't alive. Not that I want her dead. Like I said, I do love her, and I care about her, and I think she is and tries to be a good person. Sorry. And I know that I'm not alone in this, and in grieving a friendship, and grieving somebody that is no longer in your life. I mean, it happens with relationships, but it's much harder with friendships. And she ended up reaching out to me when I was on my road trip, and I knew that it was over between the two of them when she reached out to me. I just knew. And I ended up finding out that I was right and that he had went back to his ex, which is exactly what I told her he was going to do. And then she also Venmo'd me money on my birthday, and that was hard. And I ended up talking to my mom and my aunt about it because I was like, I didn't know what to do, and I couldn't text her because I want that friendship back so bad. Oh, sorry, I did not mean to get this messy. And I ended up telling my mom and my aunt that it was really hard not being friends with her because I felt like we understood each other on a level that like nobody else did. I felt like, I don't even know how to explain it. I'm sure people understand what I'm saying. But to lose that was to genuinely go to the funeral for that friendship. I told myself this was going to be lighthearted, but I wasn't going to get deep and emotional, but I'm a very emotional person, so yeah. And to bring this back to why I started talking about it, if that would have happened to my other best friend, I wouldn't have let that happen. And now I will say my best friends didn't support it. They didn't support me staying friends with her. And looking back now, as hard as it is to not be friends with her, and as hard as it is to not have that friendship, I won't ever do that to somebody. I would have never done that to her. And if something would have happened, she would have known within 2 days. But maybe that's where I'm different. Maybe that's where I'm not like everyone else. But I also know my best friends wouldn't do that to me. My best friends now. I know they wouldn't. And so that's where I say, look at the situation as if it was your best friend in it and tell me if you would support it. I mean, shoot, if it was a homeless person on the street telling me the situation, and it was somebody I'd never met before and I didn't know them from freaking Adam and Eve, I wouldn't support it either. I just, it's crazy to me. It is so mind-blowing. I saw a video of this girl talking about how your friend's exes should repulse you. The fact that you want to be with someone who made them cry, who broke their heart, told them all of these things that they didn't mean. You want to be with that person? You want to be in a relationship with that person? Especially after they tell you everything in detail. So look at your situationship, that friendship, that relationship with whoever it is, and ask yourself if you would support your best friend being in that relationship. And if the answer is anything but a solid yes, cut it off. Because you are doing yourself absolutely zero favors. And don't play with yourself and be like, yeah, well, toxicity is fun. Do you know why toxic waste and toxic things that put into your body that are toxic are called toxic? Is because they're bad for you. If something is toxic to the human body, are you going to eat it? If something is toxic to your dog or your cat, are you going to feed it to them and risk something bad happening? I wouldn't. Unless you have serious mental problems, you probably wouldn't either. So what makes that any different from a toxic human? Genuinely, what makes that any different? I don't think it makes it any different. I think it's just about the same daggum thing. I swam in a cyanide pool when I was in high school. I think this was during COVID. It's a pretty insane thing to start the story off with, to be honest. We're getting lighthearted now. I'm done crying. I think it was on the summer. I don't remember what year it was, but I remember it being around COVID because there was no way I had free time to go swimming in a pond of cyanide, okay? Me and some of my friends, and I had known my whole life, and my little brother, my youngest brother. We were all like hanging out. It had to be the summer because it was hot, but also I lived in South Carolina where it could be 75 degrees on Christmas Day, And one of them goes, hey, we know of this pond that is just like blue. It's weird. It's like if you were to go to the Keys, low key. It's so cool. Like our friends, it was like a big secret because they didn't want everyone to know about it. And also, it was on private property. So yes, I did have to break some laws to go swimming in this pond, but that's besides the point. That was years ago. And we get there and we have to jump a fence, which if you have to jump a fence to get in somewhere, you shouldn't be in there, but whatever. So we go. We get there and it is a weirdly blue pond with pretty clear water off this road. That was I wouldn't say a main road. It was probably one of the main roads, but it wasn't like one of the main roads. It was not super busy, but it could be. And we're just having a ball. We're swimming, jumping in, swimming around. I'm like, I don't think there's any fish in this pond. Yeah. Past Riley, no shite. Because it was a pond of cyanide. I didn't know that, obviously. So anyways, we have fun. We're there for a couple of hours. We finally decide to leave. You know, we're low-key testing our luck with how long we're here. And we go home. So my parents get home and we're like, Mom, Dad, we went swimming in this pond. It was so cool. It was so blue. You could see the bottom. And my dad goes, was it off of such and such road? Yeah, that's where it was. Was there a cemetery near it? Yeah, awkwardly enough that you say that, actually there was. He goes, yeah, so that's where the old gold mine was. That's a pond of cyanide. And I was like, do we need to go to the hospital? Like, am I going to die? Well, first of all, I was like, what is cyanide? It's poison. Okay. So, well, what's the next steps? Do I need, like, anti-venom or, like, anti-poison? I don't really know what that is about. Like, what's the protocol? My dad was like, well, you're probably fine. Probably. I mean, obviously I am. I'm still here today. But at the time, I was like, yo, Dad, like, you're telling me I swam in a pond of poison? And I'm probably going to be okay. And he was like, yeah, the reason why it's so clear is because there's no living organisms in there because they're all dead. You know what? When you put it that way, and now that you say that, it makes sense. It makes sense. So I call my friends. I'm like, hey, I don't know if you know this, but that's where the old gold mines were. And that's pond of cyanide. They were all like, dude, what? They apparently went again a few days later or whatever, and they were going out in kayaks, and some, like, I don't know if it was law enforcement or what, showed up, and they tested it, and it was, like, heavily acidic, obviously, because it was a pond of just poison, cyanide. And, yeah, so I never went back there again, even though it was really cool, and people were like, where is this? Because we posted some pictures from it. Everyone was like, yo, like, where is this at? I was like, can't tell you. It's a secret. Also, you can't, and you shouldn't go there. Because come to find out, you could probably die if you spent too much time there. So that's also a little story that ties into everything I just talked about, is I wouldn't personally go back to a pond of cyanide once I found out that it was cyanide. Because why would I put myself in that situation to possibly freaking die, you know? Apparently, like, back in the day, they used to use cyanide to, like, separate the gold. I don't remember the whole process, but there was a whole process with it. I don't even know if they use that anymore. They use a different process, but, yeah, that was basically like the overflow. And somehow it just became a pond of just cyanide. So, actually, I want to see if I can find it on my maps. It's so hard to find. I found it. So, like, when you look at normal water on your maps, that's what you get. Nothing crazy, right? This is where we went swimming. Trying to get it to focus. But, like, you see that? Like, and then when you put it in comparison to that other body of water, you see how blue that is? That's a pond of cyanide from a satellite view on Apple Maps, by the way. And then if you look here, there's a little cemetery that my dad was talking about. But yeah, that's where the old gold mines were. Not in my hometown. It was kind of outside of my hometown, but like near where I grew up. So, yeah. Anyways, I'm fine. I mean, you know, that might be why my reading is a little bit questionable. Also could lead to some other issues that, you know, maybe I have. But for the most part, I feel okay. I feel like, you know, my life is still on track to being all right, and that I hopefully will still die of old age. But, you know, it was fun. It was fun. Yeah, wouldn't do it again. I like my life, but I'm doing pretty okay. Doing okay. Can't really complain too much, you know? Not too much. So if you ever find yourself in a pond that is really blue and really clear, don't go in it. It is not just some weird anomaly. It's cyanide. Anyways, you know, I don't really have much else to talk about. I just wanted to briefly speak on some things. I hope all of you guys have a wonderful day. Have a great time experiencing life, because life is beautiful. It is wonderful, and there are so many great things. But remember to protect yourself, and don't put yourself in situations that you wouldn't allow your best friend to be in. Okay, live, laugh, love, Michael Jackson. Goodbye.